Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we've got something a little bit different and pretty special. I'm here with my friends from the Base ecosystem to talk about everything meme coins and Base. So if you enjoy this sort of content, mash up the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, tap the bell, selecting all the notifications so you never miss a video. Let's go.
So I'm Cap10 with AYB, All Your Base. We're known as being the zero block meme on base. So zero block meme means we're actually written into the code, which is really cool. The developers of Base had the foresight to actually write memes and believe in memes that early on. To my understanding, it was like an Easter egg that no one even saw, and we actually didn't even realize until 3 months later that we had been written into the code. So it's really cool to have that meme that's immutable, and it goes with the ethos of base chain. It's actually all your base that belong to you is the name of it. And yeah, really cool to be able to be here and talking about our meme projects. When just last year, a lot of people didn't believe in memes so much, and seeing them take off and get all this attention from not just all the Solanas, but bringing all that attention over to base chain and liquidity. It's going to be really fun to talk about how we are all working together over on Base.
Hi, I'm 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗘𝗥𝗦 from 𝗕𝗙𝗛. 𝗕𝗙𝗛's the token on Base. For those who might not know who are listening, we kind of started on Farcaster, and Farcaster is a bit of our home. 𝗕𝗙𝗛 was originally like a community. It was a channel on the Farcaster protocol. And I sort of created a token, and then 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗡, my co-founder, he joined. And then we created a blockchain called 𝗕𝗙𝗛 chain on top of Base. And yeah, so those are the three things we're sort of juggling right now. We're a meme, we're on Farcaster, and we're a blockchain.
Awesome.
Hey guys, I'm 𝗕𝗪. I'm part of the core team at 𝗕𝗪𝗠𝗪 and 𝗕𝗪𝗠𝗪. If you're not familiar with 𝗕𝗪𝗠𝗪, it's the largest decentralized exchange on Base. It essentially combines a few of the key elements that have made some of the DEXs and DeFi successful, such as concentrated liquidity pools, in a sort of like voting mechanism that incentivizes pools to attract liquidity. Happy to talk a little bit more about the design, but so far it's been incredibly effective at attracting liquidity, attracting volumes, and we've seen a lot of growth on Base, which we believe is essentially, and we've seen essentially it's the leading network of the layer 2s and kind of growing faster than any other network.
Hey everybody, this is 𝗬𝗓𝗪. I'm part of the team at Unite. So Unite is an L3 focused on mass market mobile games. Basically what that means is we are squarely focused on mobile games, but we think there's a big gap in the Web3 gaming market. By platforms, we're focusing on the biggest platform in the gaming industry. And by mass market, we mean that we are focused on developing and launching profitable, self-sustaining games that are actually making more money, coming in than going out, so they can reinvest in growth and actually get to mass market scale and start competing more effectively with the Web2 market. And thanks for having us.
Awesome. And you said L3, just for viewers at home that don't know what an L3 is, could you just explain that to the audience?
Yeah. So if you think about blockchains that are out there, just all of Web3 is premised on the idea of basically writing data to a decentralized ledger or decentralized database. And what we found over the last decade plus is that it can be very expensive if you have everybody using the same blockchain. It just makes things cost prohibitive. It can basically throttle a lot of the speed at which you can actually write things to the chain, which makes it really hard to build stuff. So what people started doing was building other chains on top of that chain in order to basically batch transactions and then write them all at once to the foundational chain. And then we found that I was still running into problems because, good problem to have. Just Web3 has gotten more and more popular, and it's just driven a lot more volume. So as a result, the latest structural innovation is to create a third layer to this stack, which is just to oversimplify, basically doing the same thing, batching transactions at this application layer, top layer, writing that to an L2, and then that would batch transactions across a bunch of different applications and write it to an L1. But basically a way to help scale all this stuff and help make it go global.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I think the first question to probably kick things off would be, for anybody that's perhaps living under a rock, doesn't understand cryptos, new to the space, and we're going to get loads of new people over the next few months, I would imagine, as we go into a more bullish market. What is Base? And I'll open it up to the floor.
I guess I can say from my perspective what Base sort of is. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of arguments floating around all of these like layer 2 chains, essentially. Why do we need them, and why pick one over another, and why Base and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I have the right answer to all of that. I kind of started building on Base just because I believed in the team. The Coinbase team was on Farcaster, I was on Farcaster, and also last year, August, essentially, when they launched, Friendtech also launched at that point, and now Friendtech's kind of gone, but I don't know, I was sort of fascinated with that app. It was a social app. 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗡𝗏 sort of in the social space, Farcaster is obviously in the social space. So it was just sort of where I think our community was sort of hanging out, and it just kind of made sense for me to launch it on Base. I don't know if there's a technical reason really to launch on Base versus somewhere else. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But for me, it really was the culture, and sort of believing in the long-term vision of the team, and Coinbase sort of heading things up, and their vision of onboarding 1 billion users. And it feels like Base will probably be the testing ground for a lot of their like groundbreaking products, which is probably like wallets. Jesse's now heading up. Jesse's sort of the head of Base, for those that don't know, and he's heading up Coinbase wallets as well. So it feels like wallets are probably going to be a big friction point that's going to be resolved maybe in the next few years or something. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like a good place to be. So that's sort of why I'm there, and what I kind of think of Base as a blockchain.
I assume everybody knows what Coinbase is, definitely in this group, but maybe for those who don't, this is the one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. It's a $50 billion company headquartered in the US. I think what's interesting for Unite's purposes, and I'm sure everybody on this panel and everybody building on Base, is that Base, I see, is basically like a conduit or a channel to get users of the Coinbase exchange. And this data is old, but I think maybe 2-3 years ago, Coinbase used to share publicly how many users they had registered on the platform. It was somewhere north of 100 million. So these are people that have been KYC'd. So, Coinbase checked your government ID, made sure you're a real person. And the way I see Base is it's a way for Coinbase to get the users who are ready to go from just buying and trading cryptocurrencies to actually engaging with Web3. And it looks like the way they're doing that is going from the exchange through the wallet to different applications that are built on Base. And I think that's really interesting for Unite in particular, but just the industry in general, because in theory, it really helps to elevate the quality of user that is dealing with Web3. And when I say quality, I don't mean like if you're not a Coinbase user, you're not a legitimate user, but just to mean that Web3 is really rife with bots, AI agents, whatever you want to call it, which are extremely extractive. And for Unite's purposes, we're very focused on building and launching games that are self-sustaining because they're profitable. That means that you have to have users that are actually putting value into the game, not just extracting it. So the idea of being able to address a fairly concentrated audience of really high quality is not the right word, but just like, real people who are really excited about Web3, I think it's really powerful. Definitely powerful for Web3 gaming. And I think just across the board over here, it's great to be able to work with an organization like Coinbase that's, working with you to help, create interesting things for this audience. I think it's really unique.
Yeah, I like how you made it sound like a no-brainer really to be on base. You know, both of you, and really wanted to emphasize what Welly was saying as well, how you know, I've always known Coinbase as being the best onboarding for crypto. Whenever people, so I've been trading for over 10 years. People would come to me and say, "Hey, how do I get involved in crypto?" I would always say I would kind of compare Coinbase to the bank, and of course I'd say, "Hey, this is an actual it's not the actual bank, but it's the safest place to kind of connect your bank and onboard and off ramp." But then from there, then some Coinbase, there's a lot more you can do, but it was like the first step to their their crypto journey. And over the years we've seen they're like one of the few um, companies or crypto companies that have won even lawsuits against the SEC. Um, and they've kind of proven that crypto is going to be around and that they're going to be the major player in America. So yeah, when we talk about good crypto gamers, or just realizing that people are knowing that they're real, not bots. I mean, we're going to get more and more of these issues coming up. Solana with these AI bots, it kind of scares me a little bit where crypto could be headed with a lot of thousands of launches a day. Now AI can start launching. We're going to see tens of thousands of launches a day. So having that verification, like that Coinbase offers, and I think was it kind of a no-brainer for us too. Although all of us here were a part of this and getting involved with Coinbase pretty early. So even then, it was a no-brainer to us. But I think we saw the last bump in the market, and we see Coinbase continually rising right now. I think it's obvious that other people are starting to realize that Coinbase, they bring a lot of value through the onboarding and just having that known customer base.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these guys touched on the key points. I think when we found out Coinbase was going to launch a layer 2 and it was going to use the Optimism stack. So before Aerodrome, we had Velodrome on Optimism mainnet. When we found out Base was coming, it was an absolute no-brainer to launch Aerodrome on Base. And the thesis was, and it's playing out so far, was that Base would be the biggest L2, and that results would concentrate. Even though you have kind of like a collection of many layer 2s, we believe that the results, the volumes, the number of users, the activity would concentrate around just a few of these, and that Base would be by far number one, and that it would not only be the number one in terms of volumes, numbers of users across layer 2s, but it would actually overtake mainnet just because it offers faster execution, lower fees, a sort of like, again, connection with Coinbase, which allows a lot of interoperability between the Coinbase sort of like application itself and Base, right? You see, kind of arbitraging and CCR across the two networks, calling Coinbase a network in itself. And we've seen that play out. So far, volumes have come to Base. The sort of like highest volume pool anywhere on chain is the wrapped ETH USDC pool on Aerodrome currently. And we see, again, with users as well, even tokens that have bridged over from mainnet to Base, like MOG, 𝗕𝗘𝗪, 𝗕𝗘𝗪. We start to get all of the big ones actually now. They have more holders. I mean, I don't know if all of them, but at least MOG, last time I checked, had twice as many holders on Aerodrome on Base than on mainnet. And we believe this is going to continue to be the case, that it's just going to continue to attract sort of like volumes, activity. TVL would take a bit longer, of course, because a lot of capital is parked on DeFi applications on mainnet, and that's very sort of sticky capital. But over time, as opportunities continue to arise for capital to be deployed on Base, it's going to follow through. So we believe that TVL also is going to continue to increase, and we're incredibly bullish on the potential of Base overall as a network. So yeah, we're very happy to be there, and so far the results are speaking for themselves.
Sounds amazing. I mean, meme coins have been obviously the driving force in crypto recently, right? What's the significance of meme coins in the Base ecosystem, do you feel?
I don't know who hasn't seen the video from 𝗲𝗏 recently, but I think that even sparked a little bit of a new renaissance almost in meme coins, because he broke it down very well. And I've talked to a lot of people who are like, oh, I had the exact same idea as 𝗲𝗏, and and Murad's been saying it as well for a long time, but he really broke it down in a very distinct way and used all the data to back it up. I think that memes are really they're cults in a way, or he said culture coins, and they're bringing people together, which it's that socialify narrative that we've been hearing about actually since last cycle. Being able to bring people together, it can be done in many different ways. And you saw, there are tons of big platforms and tools and ways to bring people together this way. But meme coins are just the low-hanging fruit. The easiest way to connect people is, I would always like to compare it to like a mascot for a sports team. Sometimes you bring someone to a baseball game who doesn't know how to play baseball, and you're like, they're more interested in the mascot or other things, to the halftime show and things like this. So it's something that connects all types of people, even when some of us might be more interested in the baseball. And the mass market that we're trying to attract is that that Web2 space. And I think that's one thing that Coinbase offers really well, is that whole onboarding. And we like to talk about normies. That's, I think, going to be their kind of one of their big markets, and the bread and butter, I think, for Coinbase is not just they are bringing lots of liquidity, but it's the different types of liquidity that are coming. We're going to see more kind of newer people to the game. And I think we all know that there's a lot more money over there still than there is in Web3. But I love also what 𝗲𝗔𝗀𝗰𝗍 is doing, bringing a lot of liquidity and connecting liquidity across, because we need those liquidity providers. First thing, when a new network like Coinbase or Base comes out, there's like a playbook. You need to create the bridges, and you need to get the liquidity over so people can make the trades. And then you build an infrastructure on top. So it's really cool how everything's coming together.
Awesome. Do you feel that because of how easy it is front end with Coinbase, that's going to be a real driver, and perhaps meme coins are going to be more successful on the Base ecosystem than perhaps others that are a little bit more fragmented in the approach for new users?
Well, I think DJ should talk a little bit about this too, but I think we stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't think we should undersell any of the people that make contributions. So we're learning and watching what happens on chains like Solana. They're not going away, but we can maybe build systems differently. And I think that's part of what crypto and blockchain is it's a kind of a learning experience. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it with what comes out with memes and how they evolve, essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely
Awesome.
interesting to see like the interoperability of all the chains. Solana, it seems like it's a much easier experience maybe for users. I personally haven't really used it too much. But essentially they have one chain, and then, like for a newbie, it's kind of easier to maybe map it out in their brain that, this is the operating system, and here where the coins are, and here's where the dexes are. And there's no like bridging and like there's no added complications. So I can see how that could be easier. I don't know how that scales. I'm not a blockchain developer or expert, but it really is going to come down to like which solutions scale. For us, obviously, we created the L3, which is, basically what 𝗲𝗍 was talking about. It's sort of like this third layer on top in like a sandwich. So it's kind of difficult to get there, and that's not a good problem to really have. And so we've been kind of working with like Layer 0 and Stargate and other people to sort of upgrade our bridge, and eventually we'll announce when it's ready. But hopefully the Layer 0 and some of these solutions will help with the interoperability of bringing tokens from any chain to any chain. Still, the liquidity will be pretty fragmented anyway, but at least you can kind of mint and burn on different chains and move your tokens around. Though the process is going to be still pretty complex, so I don't think this is going to be solved anytime soon. And probably what 𝗏 was saying is that there's just going to be a few winners at the end, 5 years from now, maybe Base, maybe Solana, maybe just a few chains kind of standing. Maybe there's room for app chains or these Layer 3 chains to be these smaller chains, maybe not housing as much liquidity, but still that maybe they have a place, more like a niche area. But there needs to be a way for people to on-ramp and off-ramp of, from different chains, if that's to be like viable, I guess. So yeah, the fragmentation of liquidity is an issue for sure on Ethereum. I don't know what the right solution is, and maybe the solution is that just some blockchains end up dying, and so we naturally just have a few standing, and that's kind of how things usually pan out, I think. So, but yeah, anyway, that's sort of like the high level. That's why I'm kind of bullish on Base. I think they'll
would
be
disagree
around
with
for a
you.
while.
I think we
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
enough to go around. You know, I think every cycle we get, you know, it grows and grows. And I actually envision a future where a layer 3 actually has more liquidity than layer 2 it's on. You know, but call me crazy. You know, maybe it's 10 years away, but I just think it creates more money. You know, each time you create these new systems, as long as you have the users, and we still have a lot of users to come. Basically, everything you do on Web 2 could be done on Web 3. So I'm sure 𝗲𝗲, you might have some input on this as well. I saw your hand up. You got a layer 3 liquidity, and I mentioned earlier, liquidity is a big issue. Whenever you have a new chain, it's kind of in the playbook. Then you have to get liquidity to create these exchange pools. Unless you use some new, you know, V3, V4 liquidity options where tokens are sold only.
Yeah, I just got instilled in me like a decade ago that I used to work for Ripple a long time ago, and kind of the house view was that the evolution of Web3, like infrastructure underlying it, would look like the infrastructure of the internet today, which is massively distributed. You know, you have tons of different web servers. You do have like top level servers where there's a degree of concentration. Think about like Verizon, NTT, but you have this still kind of roll up architecture. And the prediction that Ripple made, 2014 was there was just going to be endless number of blockchains, and I think that's going to be the case. I just think that rather than having consolidation of transactions and liquidity and users around a single blockchain, there's probably going to be a handful of blockchains like L1s that all these transactions roll up to, but there's going to be a lot more, I think, investment in interoperability and standardization. I thought Ripple had a great solution 10 years ago. I just don't think the market was ready for it. So I'm excited to see that happen.
I still hold Ripple that I bought at 2 cents like 10 years ago. So, I mean, it was, you know, it's up, but it's just taken a really long time to do anything.
Well, I think, you know, Kat, that's a great point. Just this idea of if you look at what's driven a lot of the evolution of Web3, it's been really less about scaling and interoperability and more just about like financial motivations. So Ripple really, I think it still is. You can look it up in Interledger Protocol, ILP. I think it's a great architecture for scaling blockchain. It's just not that interesting, I think, to crypto people because it doesn't have a token. So there's not really anything to invest in or speculate on. And I think the reality, just looking back the last 10 years, it's not a controversial statement to say that really the financialization and the ability to speculate or invest on a lot of these projects has been one of the major drivers of adoption. And I don't think it's a negative thing. I think we were just talking about meme coins. I think Cap, maybe you said it, that meme coins are probably the best example of the most successful social application or gaming application in all of Web3. And I say this, you know, I don't feel very happy admitting this, but if you look at just Web3 gaming has pulled in so much venture capital relative to meme coins. Not to say that there's capital that's going into developing meme coins professionally, but there's been way more going into gaming. But if you look at the output, just the market caps of the tokens that these different projects have thrown off as like a barometer for success or adoption, meme coins are just like way up here compared to gaming. And I think, you know, it's just important to address that, embrace that.
I just feel like the gaming aspect of things, you've got, you know, a shelf life to a game, right? Like, I don't know if people are looking at it like that, and perhaps that's why they're not getting the same sort of level of traction as perhaps meme coins.
I think that's totally fair. Like if you look at the entertainment business, these are a hits-driven business. I don't think that we've yet seen like what is a model for success in Web3 gaming. I think we've seen plenty of games that have succeeded in generating token markets that have been substantial, but I think they've all had this challenge of basically declining over the near term or the long term because games haven't figured out a way to build effectively like something like the equivalent of DeFi. I think that 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 is a great example of this. These are platforms that have become effectively businesses, self-sustaining businesses, and gaming has yet to produce something that's equivalent. I think that the examples so far, yes, they totally track this like entertainment, putting out titles versus creating something like 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 or I don't know, Universal Studios in the in the movie and television business. I think that there's a dire need to figure that out. That's why Unite is in the business of this today. But I think it's really important to look at what has made more mature predecessors successful. And I think meme coins and DeFi are two sectors that have been the most successful. So it's important to take the lessons from those.
I guess I would kind of add to all that 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 obviously started as a meme coin, and we still consider ourselves a meme coin, but I do think that fundamentals matter, like on a longer term horizon. So like just like there are meme stocks, and you have like Wall Street bets and things like that, and people will meme into GameStop or whatever. At the end of the day, that stock goes up to $400, but then it crashes back down to $5 or whatever the the long-term Wall Street investors really feel the value is at for those. And I guess you can kind of argue about memes of like, hey, maybe there's some culture, maybe there's a community, but you have to do something more than just create the meme. You have to kind of create that community, maybe create a forum, a place for them to hang out. And I think right now we are in this kind of craze, just like we were 2 years ago with NFTs. And there are a few projects that came out of the NFT sort of craze cycle. And they're around today, and they're launching chains, or they're on Walmart, or they're doing other things. And I think with the meme craze, it's great to be a meme now. It's very fun, it's exciting, and it's very approachable for normies. And I think that will always be the case. Maybe the meme will change from a token to an NFT to some other standard, but I think under the hood, the meme projects out there should be really thinking about how they can also drive value for their communities and build something. It doesn't have to be a product per se, an application. Doesn't have to be a game, could be a game, but something that's going to drive value for their community. Could be a brand, could be sweatshirts, could be something that's just going to unite them and keep them holding the token, using the token, wanting to be a part of that. So I think there's like two sides to it, and there's a fun side, and then there's like the other side that you kind of have to develop with time. That's kind of my view. And yeah, I agree with the blockchains. I think there's room also for tons of blockchains, but just like with search engines and social networks and things, there's always those few that sort of people that kind of grab a lot of the market share, which is fine. I don't mind if Degen was a smaller blockchain and it remained that way, but was a viable business. I think that's totally fine for us.
I think you're totally right. Yes, like I think in terms of like Google is not a web server, right? It's a application that people can use to navigate information on the web. So I do think that there could be a massive amount of consolidation at the application layer. I think just like the underlying infrastructure, L1s, L2s, L3s, there may be stuff built on top of those where there's a high concentration of user acquisition, but I think for the underlying infrastructure, it's likely to map against internet. I don't know. I mean, I don't lose sleep over this very much. I think it's gonna work out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I've been forecasting that we're going into an acquisition consolidation period for blockchain projects, where we're start to see projects, making acquisitions of others, particularly, projects that perhaps got, individuals within their team that, are, excelling, great tech, a different type of infrastructure. And I really do think we've started to see that with the likes of SingularityNet, Fetch, Ocean merging. I think there will be other AI projects do the same. I think we're going to see that in layer 1s and layer 2s. Is that something that you guys kind of feel is about to start happening more as well?
I'm not I love you brought that up. We've done that a little bit where I've worked with other projects where I kind of absorb the team, or we're working with some people that they provide utility, we provide the meme. So there are ways to work together, but then also, if they don't have a token yet, then let's work together. Let's, join the team. So even in the meme space, I think everywhere, especially during these times, like you said, consolidation, when the market's been rough, people either got to make up their mind. You have to go back to work, or you got to figure out ways to make money and make the product successful, or just keep grinding. There's you find which products will survive, and generally we see these in the cycles, and then they flatline for a while, but we'll see a couple take off.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're exactly right. This merger of these AI tokens recently is we'll see. We'll see if that's something that's leading indicator of a much bigger trend, or if it's gonna drop just there. There have been some degree of consolidation already, like former L1s. I'm thinking like 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 that are going over to become an L2 on Ethereum. But I think just like the pendulum's going to swing back and forth. Right now, I think that there are some L1s who've conceded that there's just not enough liquidity organically to their L1. There's too much on Ethereum for them to resist. So then they're just going to, join the winner. At the same time, you see Solana has had just a very rapid rise over, just since not too long ago. And I just think that the financial incentives for L1s to compete with Ethereum is just too big. There's just too much money over there. So I think that there are enough forces going either direction where some L1s are going to concede and are going to join Ethereum, and then others are going to say, you know what, Solana, I look at that market cap, I want that too. And they may look at merging with other L1s to try and compete. I just suspect that the biggest driver is going to be less about the underlying technology and more about I think the quality and volume of users and liquidity across those chains. One of the big challenges with mergers is just how to structure them and how to price them. And it's less about, hey, I've got this type of next gen ZK tech that's underlying this. It's just, look, how many real users do you have and how much value can they add over here? I think that's what made Solana so successful, is they're able to capture the last wave of NFT hype. I mean that in a positive way, and it basically represented the next generation of retail users, and Solana did an amazing job of capturing that. But I think collectively a bunch of other L1s could claim the same, and if they come together, maybe it could be a viable competitor.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoke to the guys over at the Solana Foundation, and there's a real openness and willingness for acquisitions. And I'm watching behaviors of different projects. So I think you can tell a lot from some of the behaviors and some of the things that you see. Recently, you're seeing layer one protocols going to events that they perhaps would never have gone to in the past. So yeah, I'm looking out for those things, and I encourage others to be looking out for that as well, because I really do believe that we're going to see some consolidation in these sectors for sure. Cool. So how do you feel meme coins on Base compare to other ecosystems, and what trends are we seeing in 2024 heading into 2025, do you feel?
Maybe just as an initial comment on meme coins, I think, initially we're calling them meme coins because they, of course, started with Doge, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, etc., which are obviously sort of like clear memes. But I think what's happening here is that it's just coins that allow people to take a view on any topic. So they've been popular because people are able to buy early into these and ride a wave. But they can be, again, and we've seen it happen with political topics, with animals, now with AI. So I agree that it's almost like more of a social game than necessarily like a funny game. I mean, of course, the funniness allows them to grow because they become more viral. But it's more of a social game, or it can even be again, an opportunity to take a view on what is happening in the world, right? You know, Trump's odds growing early in the year were helping some of the Trump coins. We saw, again, 𝗕𝗀𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, and of course they rise and then fall. So I do agree with Jacek's points that eventually the tokens have to lead to something else, unless they are so popular that they can just maintain their value. Sorry, by the virality of the token itself, like maybe 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘. But yeah, what we're seeing on Base is, you know, of course, some tokens that have been very popular in, you know, as memes themselves, but also we now see the rise of AI. We see Virtual has been doing a lot of AI stuff, and now they're finally getting repriced. They have the Luna token. If you haven't followed it, Luna is sort of like also an AI agent, but with a face that you can actually go into the app and see and interact with her, which is kind of cool. And what we see on Aerodrome is essentially the volumes are driven totally by these kind of tokens. Early on, when we designed Velo and now Aero, we agreed with the thesis that most of the VC coins, I don't even want to call them VC coins, but many of the big coins really don't capture any of the value created by their networks or their applications. So on Velo and Aero, we essentially funnel 100% of the value created with both platforms to the Aero and Velo tokens in the form of voting rewards. So if you lock Aero, you get the Aero, and you get as a group, the Aero voters get 100% of the value created by the platform. So it really creates this feedback loop where, as the platform grows, the Aero holders get higher voting rewards, and that drives the value of Aero, and that allows the platform to also grow again, right? So we believe it's a really cool model that we would like to see in a way also replicated in other applications. I think that's maybe what's been missing in some of the gaming platforms. We get to review some of the tokens that want to be listed on Aerodrome or Velodrome, and I just consistently find that most of their tokenomics just lack any kind of value accrual to the token. You know, many have sort of like an incentive program where they're just allocating tokens to attract users. But then at some point, you know, the token cannot sustain its value, right? It's just the supply is increasing, and yeah, maybe more users are using, but most of them are just kind of farming and dumping. Even if the game is fun, there's really no incentive or very limited incentive to hold the token, because, you know, others are getting distributions and they're also going to be selling. So it becomes a game of who sells first, right? As it's happened with many farming tokens in the past. And so, you know, we're excited about, again, the growth of just any narrative that attracts users and makes it fun for people to use crypto. We believe it's going to continue to happen because, you know, meme coins or just coins in general have an infinite amount of topics that they can cover. So I think we're just gonna continue to see the rise of like different narratives, different topics. There's a few tokens that I do like, you know, on Base already that have real memes, real historic value, and or the potential of just kind of growing alongside Base. And so I agree. I mean, it's been a tough period, to be honest, in crypto in general. There's been pockets where growth has come, you know, Base, Solana, certainly. But most of the other networks, most of the L1s, L2s have struggled or just kind of stayed stable, right? And so we really haven't seen that explosion of user growth, only sort of like on a relative basis. I mean, definitely we do see some growth overall in crypto, and I think we've seen some really positive signals. But so far, the rest of the world is really not paying that much attention. At some point, we probably will get some kind of viral app that will just take off. And I think I agree with the sentiment here that, you know, crypto is going to be the underlying infrastructure. The apps that face users are going to be sort of like the front end, the UI for the majority of the world. And what's going to happen is that transactions, activity, volumes are going to, you know, settle where the liquidity can be found regardless of the chain. regardless of where the token is positioned, most people are not even going to want to know or need to know whether it's a Solana token or a Base token. But they will want, of course, the fastest execution, and they will want the best token, right? Whatever it is popular at the moment, they'll want to buy that, and then transactions will flow to where the best liquidity or the best execution is. And that's going to be the thesis for, or that's our thesis for 𝗕𝗷𝗀𝗀𝗧𝗏. I think we're going to build the best pools for any tokens, and I think we're starting to actually expand the selection of tokens to from other ecosystems as well. We have a pretty good liquidity pool for dog with hat, for example. We brought 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗘𝗥𝗦, 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗘𝗡𝗧𝗦, 𝗕𝗫 on
It's probably like, it's probably a good time to drop that, cliche of markets, in the near term are a voting machine, and then over the long term are a weighing machine. So I think like 𝗕𝗷𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, I think what's so interesting about you guys is you really do provide like one of the best channels for optimizing for liquidity, and it really helps to like accelerate this process of figuring out what's going to catch people's attention today, and then what's going to hold that attention over the long term. And then coming back to Jacek, a point that you were making earlier about meme coins, to me it sounded like you're describing a brand. Like I was just thinking as you were talking, like Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty, it's a lot of different things, right? There are games, there's merchandise. Yeah, super Hello Kitty fans over here, I hope. And I think
it's so funny you mentioned that. I know some of them might have talking about the Hello Kitty IP might be coming out to blockchain. But it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think looking back, I just see so many Web2 brands or businesses try to port over to Web3, and they just have a really hard time sticking out over the long term. I think the opposite has been true, where like Web3 native brands have really lasted over a long period of time. And I'm really interested about, Chris, to your question about meme coins on Base, it's gonna be really interesting to see what resonates with not exclusively Coinbase users, but I'm assuming a lot of users who are coming into Base are coming from the Coinbase exchange through the wallet into different apps or meme coins or whatever. It's more a reflection of Coinbase's user base, which is largely, unless something's changed a lot in the last few years, majority US. And these are people that have been, in crypto for a while.
Can we touch on that? Coinbase doesn't have a token. So that's something that we should all at least think about. And does that play into it? I've always been curious. It doesn't have a token. So meme coins are kind of the avenue for people to start gambling, because when people want to gamble on a new chain, they generally put the money into that token, and then they come in and out of that token. At least that's how I played the game. But with Coinbase, there's no Coinbase token. So it's Ethereum, or if you want to invest in Coinbase, it's got to be one of the meme coins or DeFi systems or games.
That's fair. I think what's interesting about Coinbase is one of the most regulated organizations in the world, right? Cap, you were saying earlier, it's basically like a bank. They have to be so careful about this. I think what they've done really well is they have provided like the platforms, the on-ramps to make it easy for users of the exchange to kind of enter the world of Web3 and discover things that are interesting to them. Like there's a lot of interesting logic behind the scenes that's determining what is a Coinbase user going to see when they hop in a Coinbase wallet and try and figure out what is the NFT, dApp, meme coin that they're going to see and likely swap into. So I'm just really interested to see like how Coinbase ends up figuring out like over time what to show to these different users. When it comes to Unite, I think it's really interesting because just the core team of Unite, me aside, they include the former founders and of executives of this company called 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, which was one of the first social and mobile gaming companies ever, and also became one of the most successful gaming companies in history. They ended up developing and publishing somewhere north of 100 games, generating billions in revenue. And they were able to do that because with social gaming, You had Facebook that just exploded, in the late 2000s. And then you have the app stores coming into the scene at the same time. And they were very successful at figuring out what are the types of games that would resonate with, these social mobile users, not a monolith, but like what specific users are going to resonate? How do you make a business out of that? And I see the same sort of thing happening right now with Base, where you have this like large group of real people who are coming into this universe for the first time, and it creates this type of um, Facebook or App Store effect that a lot of gaming companies in particular saw early days. And yes, I think gaming's had a hard time. I think a lot of reasons for that, but I think given the success of meme coins, there's an amazing opportunity. What's that?
Teach us how to do microtransactions. Teach us meme coins how to do microtransactions like the video games can. I think that's what we see coming.
Totally.
It's selling new NFT launches, new games to play with little ways to use and utilize your token. I think getting these microtransactions within your social networks is going to be a big driving factor for memes, and games got it down.
Mechanically, definitely. I just think it's inevitable that there's going to be a marriage between meme coins and games, that there's going to be someone who's building up this very successful Hello Kitty brand, but Hello Kitty doesn't need to bring a studio in-house. It's going to work with someone who's very good at developing and publishing games. I think this just has to happen. And this is why I bring up earlier, just, gaming has gotten a lot of very smart, well-meaning people. I know I used to work in gaming before in crypto. I'm seeing a lot of the same faces, a lot of some super smart people. Meme coins are just up here. And I think that hopefully the market doesn't go like this and meme coins drop. I would go somewhere like this, and then up above that these two things can play off one another. So I'm really excited to see that type of marriage between these two sectors take place. And none of this is independent. I think this is going to incorporate DeFi as well, just given that clearly what's resonating with consumers is the ability to play with the financial aspects of Web3. And I don't think speculation is a dirty word at all. I think it's really interesting, and you have to incorporate DeFi as well. So I see a convergence over here, and that's part of the reason why I'm really interested in Base, is it's attracting some people who are, I think, consciously or subconsciously seeing the same opportunity, and bringing these groups together and hopefully see some interesting innovation. Like this group, got a great group right here.
I think you're totally right with some of the synergies that are being kind of built up. And I think Cap was also kind of saying that they're doing that with 𝗖𝗢𝗍, where there's sort of the meme layer and they're reaching out to projects that are more technical and trying to fuse the two. I think that's a really good synergy. And I also just think, like, going back to the question of 2025, what are going to be like the main meme coins, or like what's going to be driving them? I do think just generally we're pretty early in all of this. It kind of just still feels like maybe, I don't know, when Apple was starting out, I was watching some old videos of basically Steve Jobs and the whole team there trying to explain to people why computers are going to be important, and why there's going to be a computer on every desk, and why that should be Apple, and so forth and so on. It was a really hard thing to explain to the basically like the mass audience. I kind of feel like crypto's still in that kind of funky place where there's a lot of people who understand it, but there's a lot of people who don't necessarily get it just yet. And I think Coinbase is like a really great spot where they're also providing that education layer. They have like the Learn and Earn program, or whatever it's called. And there's a lot of people that are doing this. Revolut, I don't know about some of the other apps, but it's kind of about like educating normies about all these different tokens and projects that are launching. And so I think education is also like a big part of that. And so I think memes that get onto Coinbase, not that aren't just on Base, but they end up getting onto Coinbase, have like a really big chance of sticking in 2025 and beyond. That's why I'm super happy that we were able to get on there. It's a huge vote of confidence from the Coinbase team. And like we were talking about earlier, they're very heavily regulated. And so I'm wondering if the future of memes is like these bigger brands, and turning basically your meme into brand almost. And to do that, you need to basically be more transparent, I guess. You need to be able to get past some of these regulatory hurdles. And getting listed on Coinbase isn't super easy. It's a super secret process, so I don't even know about it, but I know that there is a lot of boxes you have to tick from like the regulatory side. So I think like if you're looking for memes for 2025, I was looking for them, and I was looking for tokens that were gonna do well. I would probably look at projects where the founders are doxed, or at least projects very transparent. There was fair launches. I think we're going more into like this direction of legitimacy, where I think in the past of crypto, and even now, there's like a lot of gray areas, but I think in the future, even memes are going to be cleaner. Brands are going to start forming, synergies are going to start forming. It's going to become maybe less 90s internet and more corporate and more structured. I don't know, but it's definitely going to become more businessy, I think.
And I did want to mention that too. You mentioned people are kind of doxed, and that's one thing I'd like to mention about base. You mentioned memes on base. How are they a little bit different? And I think that's one thing you pointed out. We had an on-chain summit. We have meetup events. We have, we meet face to face. This isn't my first time that Yasik and I have met. We are doing business, I think, the more traditional way, rather than, let's be a cult, like let's hide our identities. I think people have kind of gotten past that game a little bit. So yeah, it's really cool to actually work with people and know who it is. And bad things happen in crypto. So it's what I hate to see sometimes is that you know the story was true. The devs were really hacked. You always get that story like, oh, I don't know where the treasury went, and then you never believe them because you just think they ran off with the money. But because we're actually meeting each other, we've developed this trust. I always like to say a trust and a trustless system. We're trying to create a trustless system, but it's just taught us more that we have to have like almost this DID or this this other layer of meeting face to face, trust developed on top of it. Yeah, anyone that works in space understands that that's another thing that's coming, I think, soon, is all these systems to kind of verify people, identities. And yeah, I think that's one popular thing about memes. And also, like we said, that memes are seeming to be, they're kind of gambling a little bit. And as much as it's not fun, none of this is investment stuff, right? So people are the lowest hanging fruit generally with with a new technologies is going to be gambling. That's where a lot of money is spent or transactions are made. And I think you see that memes are like, I kind of compare them to poker tables, and it's kind of an easier way to kind of spin up a new investment where some people make money and some people lose money, and it's kind of a time duration thing. But we see that the ones that actually start to develop, like Yasik was saying, once they get past just being a meme and start developing something, which we're going the direction of gambling and prediction markets a little bit. So so that's the kind of development that we're doing. But once you actually have a product and something that people can spend time, get behind, and actually if you use your token, not that it's utility, I'm not sure what we can say about anything, it's just a coin, but it's an not investment vehicle, a gambling vehicle, in my opinion. And I think we're seeing that with these new like Trump coins and Kamala coins and Mudangs. They're kind of gambles on social prediction markets almost in their own sense as a token. And I don't think that's going away. I think we're going to see a bunch more money markets like that, and then tools as well that also enable these types of prediction markets. And we see Polymarket, all these are really big in the news right now.
Cap, one thing I want to say is I'm sure there are people who are in crypto who are gambling. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. But I think probably one of the most interesting things about crypto or Web3 in general is it's basically, like you mentioned, prediction markets. It's basically adding markets to traditional consumer internet behaviors. And I just think, if you share something on Twitter or share something on Instagram, you are kind of gambling with your reputation. You may share something that can get you canceled because other people don't like what's putting out there. There's a risk over there. I think what crypto does is it really adds that financial aspect and raises the stakes of a lot of these behaviors. Like talking to the team internally just yesterday about the implications for gaming, one of the big problems with gaming is that in order for these games to retain their users, they're basically paying out a ton of tokens. It's very different from free to play. If you have a free to play game, someone plays your mobile game for free, they don't pay anything, it's too bad. Like, you don't have to waste any more money on those users. The equivalent in Web3 is that some of these games may be paying out users $1, $4, $10 a day just to show up and play the game. And that is just a short path to bankruptcy. So I think it really adds these significant financial stakes. So Cap, also you were saying about this idea of, base culturally leaning towards being doxxed and just, people getting their faces out there. I think that's really important. It just speaks to, I think, this trend that AI is really increasing the risk more and more of like bad behavior by bots. And I think what we're going to find is a backlash where there's going to be a stronger and stronger focus on how do you identify who's a real user, who's a valuable user, because this original strategy of saying, hey, let's launch a token and just hope people don't sell it faster than the project can, and let's just keep these metrics up so it looks like things are really great, when the reality is like, there's trying to think of that Shakespeare quote, but there's unrest, there's something that's rotten over here. So I think that the market's going to move in this direction. Yes, like maybe it is much more corporate, but I think just there's going to be a lot more focus on identity, valuing users, and there's going to be a massive flight to quality. That's going to happen very quick. I think a lot faster than people expect. And a lot of these projects, which are seen as kind of the poster children of success in whatever category in Web3, I think they're going to have a really hard time if they don't catch up with this new type of paradigm. And it looks to me like Base is in a position to really push that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm personally waiting for that privacy layer to, become apparent and start to really sort of bring in the mainstream adoption. I think until we've got that privacy layer, that identity stack, we're not really going to get full blown crypto adoption. So, I see these projects popping up now, compliant privacy projects, privacy stacks, and I think that's the next layer that needs to be introduced in order to have mainstream adoption. Your traditional banks, your healthcare, and so on. So yeah, I completely agree. The transparency is really important when it comes to memes, and I think we're seeing more of that. Especially when I'm looking at projects anyway, and again, that's just going to bring more faith to memes and crypto in general. I kind of feel. But I really appreciate you spending the time with me. I'm sure my audience gets sick to death of just hearing my voice. So it's going to be a welcomed surprise to have, myself joined by some wonderful people from the crypto space on the Base ecosystem. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules, and we should definitely do this again and perhaps touch on some of the other subjects and questions that I had articulated out that we didn't have time to cover in this AMA. It's been really, really good. Really enjoyed it, and appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris.
thank you. I noticed when you had those questions, we were gonna get through nearly all of those. But yeah, we should definitely plan something out again. That'd be great. We'd love to promote Base. It is a very welcoming and great place to build and and join the communities. So thank you for hosting.
So I hope you enjoyed that video where we broke down Base and everything you should be looking at. I really enjoyed the AMA, and maybe we'll do it again. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to see some more alpha from the Base ecosystem? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.